Drivers, start your engine!
Good evening, race fans. Welcome to the Industry Radio Network. Welcome to the Drafting the Circuits program. My name is Frank Santoroski. I'll be your host for the next hour as we talk about this past weekend in racing news, and preview next week. Joining me, I have Richard Youden and Louise Torres. What do you say, gentlemen?
How's it going?
It's going.
It's
Good,
going.
good.
Yep.
Good,
We're
good.
coming down to the end of the racing season.
Yeah, coming down to the end of our season as well. Yep, we've got this week and probably next week, and then we'll take our winter break. So last week, the question on the table was, could Mercedes win the Grand Prix before the season is up? And the answer coming out of Brazil is evidently yes. But it's not the guy that we thought it would have been. It was George Russell taking his first Grand Prix win. Huge step for any driver to move from a Grand Prix driver to a Grand Prix winner. So congratulations to George. Good job on Mercedes. And we were down at Interlagos. So Richard, take us through it a little bit. There was a little post-race controversy regarding Red Bull and some team orders and things we could talk about there, as the battle for second in the championship is now very tight.
Yeah, as a precursor to that discussion, well, I'd never realised this, but Red Bull, throughout their dominant years in the last 10 years or so, have never had a 1-2 in the championship, which is remarkable when you consider the standard and the quality of the drivers that they've had with Seb and Max over the years winning the championships, but never have they managed to get a teammate into second place in the championship. But on to the Brazilian Grand Prix weekend at Interlagos. It was the third and final sprint race event of the year, with already having those events at Imola and Austria, I think it was, for the first two races of this year, or the first two sprint races this year. And Interlagos is just a circuit that is just teed up for sprint races. Fantastic venue, great racing. 2 or 3 really good overtaking opportunities that, DRS assists, but it's, you're going to get overtaken there anyway. It's a fantastic track. It really is. It's an old school track. It just works great. I love the place. It's a great race to watch. We had, as with all sprint race weekends, qualifying was on Friday afternoon, and we had a bit of mixed weather. And I think probably it's fair to say on pure pace, we had a teammate on pole position and the teammate in last place. And I can't think of many times that's happened on pure pace before. Maybe accidents and what have you, but certainly not on pure pace. So Kevin Magnussen in the Haas put it on pole position, and Mick unfortunately was down in 20th. And to coin a Gunter phrase, they didn't look like a lot of wankers that day. They looked pretty damn good.
First pole for that team. So I mean, again, something to check off of the to-do list. Yeah,
right place, right time for those guys, and fantastic. They've been some sort of ups and downs, that team, over the last few years, and really, 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 really good to see. And obviously, it was never going to last throughout the course of the race. I think we all expected that to a greater extent. And George did what he needed to do after a strong qualifying performance from him. Put it up there and went on to win the sprint race on Saturday afternoon. Couldn't ask any more from him, really. The Alpine teammates decided to get a little bit close to each other there twice in the first lap, which resulted in Fernando Alonso having a broken front wing after hitting the rear of his teammate on the start-finish line, which is always a scary event when you see contact like that. You can launch a car pretty easy under those conditions, and that did result in Fernando getting a 5-second penalty, which I don't know if that was fair or not. That was maybe a little bit. Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, a good little sprint race there, and then onto the main event, if you like, on Sunday. And I mean, George just dominated the thing. Never in any doubt, never in any serious pressure. Tires were all under control. You know, he was doing what he needed to do. Early in the race, Lewis and Max got together and into the Santoroski's turn two at the Santoroski's with. I think Max got a 5-second penalty there, which I must admit, I personally thought was the right decision. I know there was a lot of debate on the TV coverage, but you know, by the letter of the law, to my interpretation anyway, Lewis was ahead at turn two. It doesn't matter what was going on at turn one, as per the rules. You know, you take each turn in isolation, and Lewis had the apex, and Max didn't leave him room. So you know, I think. Was it the right decision? I don't think so. Personally, I just think it was a racing incident. But by the letter of the law and how it's written, Max should have got the penalty, and he did. And it's a bit of a messy race for Max from that perspective. You know, they both got a bit of damage early on, and that probably prevented Lewis from really pushing George, because he did lose a number of places after that contact. But you just sort of went through the motions, really. And of course, there's a little bit of still gamesmanship going on there in the fight for second place in the championship between Checo and Charles Leclerc. Which, in all fairness, no disrespect to Checo, Charles Leclerc should have got this damn thing wrapped up weeks ago for a second place in the championship. But Ferrari's stumbling and missteps, throughout the first 10 races or so in the season certainly put them on the back foot and denied Charles that comfortable second place in the championship. But so Charles was wanting to be let past Carlos Sainz to gain a point, and then Checo was trying to catch. Who were they trying to? Was it Lewis they were trying to catch? No, I don't think it was. They were trying to catch. Was it? It could have been Alonso. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, Checo was trying to catch.
It must have been. Must have been Alonso more than likely.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. So with about 10, 15 laps to go, the Red Bull made the call. Hey, look, Max, you go past Checo because Max is on the more aggressive strategy. If you have a go, see if you can get past Alonso. If you can't, let Checo back through on the last lap to maintain his points. Yeah, sure, not a problem. Anyway, Max, with the damage that he received earlier in the race with that contact with Hamilton, never had the pace to really fight back or fight past Alonso. And there was repeated calls on the radio from the team for Max to let Checo back through, and he didn't. And on the radio, he said, to a lot of paraphrasing, "I have my reasons not for doing it. You know what those reasons are, and have at it." Which wasn't great, to be quite mild about it. This is a team sport. Max has benefited numerous times in the last 2 years that he's been teammates with Checo, from Checo, ceding places to Max, and so for him not to reciprocate that is pretty bad, in all fairness. And
right, and then
very nasty taste in the mouth.
Right, so then now we're going into the last race. Checo and Leclerc are tied at 290 points, and of course, 3 wins to 2. The tiebreaker goes to Leclerc. So if Checo has any issues at all, if he doesn't finish ahead of the Ferrari, doesn't finish ahead of Charles, that's the Red Bull 1-2. Out the window.
It's a huge deal.
Out the window right there. It's
a huge deal. Yeah, it's very bad. It leaves a very bad taste in the mouth there, I think. It shows a certain amount of petulance, should we say, from Max. Max is supposed to be, he is a 2-time world champion. He's supposed to act like a 2-time world champion. But frankly, he's not. He's acting like a child in many ways, and it's very poor form. And I'm sure there'll be some pretty serious meetings within the Red Bull camp over that, not just because of what happened. I mean, you get this all the time between teammates. It's nothing new, but it's how it was handled so publicly by Max on the radio. I think that leaves the bitter taste in the mouth. And, it's almost like politics. It gives ammunition to the rivals. It'll give ammunition to Mercedes, to Ferrari, to attack Max and to attack the Red Bull team going forward. So it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. And if Max is in a similar situation this weekend at Abu Dhabi, I mean, technically, when you think about it, he can't if they're tied on points. It's all up to Checo, So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I wasn't particularly impressed with those antics, should we say?
No, not at all. No, I mean, because I mean, Max got nothing to lose. He's got the title sewn up. He's got 14 wins in the bank. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So what's his giving that one spot back due to his,
So
nothing,
the rumor is that it all boils back to Monaco when Checo was on provisional pole. Max was on a hot lap, and apparently in Max's mind, Checo deliberately crashed to prevent him from getting pole. How much truth there is in that, I really don't know. I can't remember the exact set of circumstances myself, so I would be unfair to pass comment on that. But that is supposedly the reasoning behind Max's behavior. I don't buy it.
Oh man! Well, if you think about it, right? So hey, I've got a great car. I've just set pole. Let me go ahead and wreck it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. Why would you wreck it? Like, I mean, let's not forget, like Claire Bin did by driver error. Who knows if Paris was the same thing? Yeah, I think most of it has everything. Some of it had to do with the whole Rosberg Hamilton thing, where at Monaco 2014, where he was it Rosberg that went off that irate Hamilton and kind of started the deterioration of the friendship. Albeit it was not a wreck, but there was that's the difference.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of like here's the thing about the whole how I see this whole thing. On one hand, Verstappen already had a 4-second advantage over Perez, which he could he have let him go and cut the gap to, I don't know, from 4 seconds to probably let him go. He could have. They probably should have. He had a whole lap to do it, but how easy would have been done without some sort of manipulation where I'm positive. Don't Formula One have like 110% or 100% rule where you have to show competitiveness and not like I figured.
No, it's not like NASCAR. No, if you want to play the team orders game, as long as you're not dangerous and you're not manipulating the outcome, and manipulating the outcome, I think, is by like deliberately taking an opponent out. As long as you do it within reasonable and acceptable driving standards, I think it's okay. I mean, we've seen it in the past. We've seen it in the Ferrari days pretty clearly. We've seen it in the Red Bull scenarios. We've seen it in some, in a lot of situations. And I don't have a problem with that. At the end of the day, it's a team sport, and you have to do what is best for the team.
Yeah, that's where the money is.
What I don't like is when it went back to the old, Schumacher days when, Barrichello was giving up victories in like the second race of the season and crap like that. It's like, oh, geez, guys, come on. And that's a long way to go.
And that's the thing, like the broadcast mentioned, like Charles wants to get by Sainz, but that's for a podium spot. And I think they mentioned like for a podium, that's a whole different spiel. And that too, like left me sour. Yeah, it's like let's Carlos have his podium and work on it. I mean, Perez faltered at the end of the race anyway, so at the end it won't be that effective long over time, I don't think. And the thing
I think maybe slightly Max's sort of attitude, rightly or wrongly, is, well, if he's not quick enough to keep up with me, why should I let him through? And you can see Max having that attitude because he's that type of guy at times, isn't he? He's very, assertive and aggressive, and he's like, hey, if he's not quick enough, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Jog on.
He can pass me, tell him to get up here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And that is true. And that's where I see, like, on one hand, I can understand, but at the same time, you got a spot where you can finish second, which it's astonishing that guys like Weber, Ricardo couldn't get it done
I
in
know,
their
yeah.
time
I was
period.
amazed at that, yeah. Yeah, I
And,
really
and,
was, yeah.
and let's not
And
forget,
Kvia, I'm surprised. Oh, no, wait, sorry.
no, I mean, Kvyat, yeah, what do you expect? Jeez. But when you look at Paris, you mentioned it, that he's done a lot as a number two driver than most have done. Like some of them were like resistance, like, got no choice. Paris was willing to stick himself out there, live by the sword, die by the sword to help Max win the championships and rack up the points. When you see like guys like
Well,
Coulthard, Barrichello, Weber, and Massa, they reluctantly do it, but to the extent that
mm,
Paris was able to do it, not often.
but you look at Perez. In all fairness, I think he knows what. I think he knows how his bread's buttered, doesn't he? He knows full well that if that Red Bull drive didn't come along, he was out of the sport.
No, for sure. And there's that
So,
rumors about Ricardo creeping in
well,
too.
yeah,
I'm not sure
yeah.
how
I
much
mean,
leverage it
again,
has, but you never know.
nah, I mean, that's. Yeah, I mean Max and Daniel never had the greatest relationship. Now I think Christian Horner has a very very good relationship with Daniel Ricciardo, and probably still does have that relation. Had that and still does have it. So that may be where it's coming from. I don't think Max and Daniel particularly got on well. They did have a number of coming togethers. You look at Baku.
Their
Um,
personalities are complete
yeah,
opposites.
probably Max is very intense. Daniel's probably the most laid back guy you'd ever meet. But yeah, that whole dynamic. This is the first time you've ever really seen cracks in the relationship there at Red Bull under the current um, partnership. So yeah,
all
it'd be
right.
interesting. It's a shame in a way it's happened at the penultimate race because it'd be great to see what happens. Going forward. It'd be great to see if this was early on in the season, see how it developed and matured. We've all got an off season coming up to chill out basically and calm down and see where it all. We'll all have forgotten about it come
Yeah.
March or whenever we're in Australia next. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think what you're going to see happen is if Checo manages to go ahead and get the second place, after coming out of the next Grand Prix, and they get the 1-2 finish, I mean, that'll be the end of it. You won't hear anything. You probably won't hear anything about it all off season. If Leclerc maintains second place, you're going to hear all about it all. That's all anybody's going to talk about the whole off
Yeah.
season.
There's one missing element though. If Paris and Leclerc fail to finish or score enough points, Russell could still leapfrog them mathematically.
I believe he can. Yeah, because Russell's right up there too. Yeah,
Russell
Russell's
could, Russell could mathematically steal the show and take second for all we know. It's just a lot of stuff has to fall into their favor. But
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It needs to be a lot of moving parts right there.
Certainly, maximum points from a sprint weekend certainly helped him on that score.
yeah, that put him in that
absolutely,
spot in the first place.
Yeah, so I read an interesting stat. Somebody had pointed out that Max and Lewis had a little bit of contact right during the race there, right? And then somebody had to be quick to point out that Lewis has had contact in 12 or 14 different races, and this is the first time Max has had contact, right? So, and I don't know what the point is. They're trying to say that Lewis is a crappy driver compared to Max, but then somebody else was quick to point out this. Yeah, but how many wheel-to-wheel battles has Lewis been involved in, and how many times has Max been 10 seconds ahead of everybody else with no cars around him? Which
Exactly.
is, you start thinking about that. Yep, quite true.
How are you classifying incidents though? That's the question, because Verstappen has had some battles in context with other drivers than just with Hamilton. I mean, that's a no.
Yeah.
Like,
I
forget Ocon when he had that shoving match at Interlagos.
Yeah. I think
but like we're saying, statistics are made up on the spot, right? So
yeah,
make him say whatever you want.
Yeah, looking back, it all boils down to really what happened last year and the battles that they had last year, and they're obviously, we haven't really had a battle this year, should we say, between two top drivers. Obviously Charles and Max had a couple of good races there early on, but we never really saw anything on the same level and intensity that we saw with Max and Lewis last year. So they're trying to clutch at straws and grasp any concept of aggression and controversy, if you like. But yeah, it never. It's what it is, really.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
two damn good drivers, probably two generational drivers going at it, and just enjoy it, people. Just enjoy what we've got.
Just enjoy it. Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely. Yeah. So Lewis has one more shot at not losing his streak of winning a race every year. He's won a race every year since 07?
7.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
It's an
Since day one,
incredible
his rookie
achievement.
year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So
incredible achievement.
So if he'd love to keep that streak going, but the time is short, and I want to say we're off to Abu Dhabi, correct?
Yep, Abu Dhabi.
Yep.
And there's a couple of footnotes to that race, really. I think that we want to touch on. As you mentioned there, Lewis is going for his 15th consecutive winning season, I think, or season
16.
with a win. 15, 16? Well, I can't remember. However many.
16
a lot.
straight, yeah.
Yeah, 16th straight season. A lot. More than anybody else. And Sebastian Vettel's final race, 299th and final start, which is it's a real shame. I think Seb, in his I think when he was at Red Bull, he did rub a number of people up the wrong way. He had a certain demeanor that I don't think was Formula One-esque, should we say? And at the end of the day, he was a young kid, so what do you expect? But certainly, as he towards the end of his Ferrari career in the last couple of years with Aston Martin, his attitude and his outlook on the sport and how he carries himself around the paddock has changed massively, and I think it's really endeared himself to a number of people. And I know certainly, I don't think a few years ago I never thought I'd say this, but I'm certainly going to miss him, on the weekend and the interviews he gives and the sort of sense of logic and reasoning that he can bring to the paddock. And he'll certainly be missed, I'm sure. Moving forward. So so Seb's last race, Daniel Ricciardo's last race for the immediate future. He still hasn't confirmed what he's going to be doing in 2023. The chances are it's going to be a reserve role somewhere. Nicholas Latifi's final race in Formula One. I don't think he'll be back. Unlike Daniel, I think he's done his bit, and we can draw a line under Nicholas Latifi's career, however we want to class that, successful, unsuccessful, whatever we want to call it.
At least he got a top 10.
Yeah, I was going to say, last I heard, Latifi was chit-chatting with Dale Coyne about doing the road course races in the car he'd be splitting with Sato. But whether or not that comes to fruition, we'll have to see, because Dale Coyne is never one to really not take a hard look at a driver with a lot of money in the bank. So
yeah, he's a guy that if they have money is ideal, but they obviously look for untapped talent that people are overlooking. I mean, look at his track record.
Yeah, Coyne has found some definite diamonds in the rough, and there are a lot of really good guys out there that got their start in a Dale Coyne car. Someone like Paul Tracy was his first run was in a Dale Coyne car. So.
And I think one more piece of news very quickly, because we know we want to move on. Haas this week will announce their second driver with Magnussen, and the very strong rumours are that it's going to be Nico Hülkenberg. So he may get intimate with some of Kevin Magnussen's bodily functions based on some of their previous interactions.
Wait for those tweets are going to pop up. I guarantee.
Yeah, they're good. They're good. I mean, they've spoken about it publicly before, and they're like, yeah, whatever. It was a few years ago. It's just a bit of banter and a bit of whatever. So I don't think there's anything really to serious to take from that. But I think that'll be a good combination. I still think Hulkenberg has something to bring to the sport. I think he really does. And he's proven it over the last couple of years. When he's stepped in those relief roles with Aston Martin and Force India, I think it was Aston Martin. He's done a good job, and he's done everything that's been asked of him, and he's been competitive. And you've got to give the guy credit where credit's due, and it'd be good to see him back. And it's an opportunity to for Haas to grow a little bit. I think Mick has done a good job the second half of the year. The sprint race, he was fantastic in Interlagos there after a poor qualifying session.
Yeah,
but I think those early races, those wrecks at Monaco and in Saudi Arabia, and then the sort of tripping over Seb in Miami when he was on for points, I think they've done too much damage to be recoverable, if you like. And we move on. And what will happen to Mick, we don't know. Obviously, 7 is Ferrari link, so it's not like he can stick around in a Ferrari role there. It's a shame that because I think Mick's got something about him. I just think you look back at his Formula 2, his Formula 3 and Formula 2 careers. He was in both of those series for 2 seasons, and his first season was never particularly good in either of those, and he certainly did come on strong in the second of the 2. And I think personally, I'd like to have seen him given another season, but as we all know, what's the name for Formula 1? The Piranha Club. It certainly lives up to his name here, and if you're not on it week in, week out, then there's another guy on the conveyor belt waiting to take your place, and I think that's what's happened in Mick's situation here, unfortunately.
Yeah, man, I really haven't heard him linked with anything for next year.
No.
So
endurance stuff there, but.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, sports cars is always a good landing spot for guys coming out of open wheel that can't find a ride. And a lot of those guys really excel in the sports car racing. It just plays to a smaller audience. I haven't heard his name linked with much else. I haven't even heard his name as possibly being a reserve driver or a sim driver
or an emergency Williams driver too.
Yeah,
losing that Ferrari link has, I think, hurt him on that front a little bit, because you look at somebody like Giovinazzi, who probably had in fairness, a very similar career to Mick. Understated, under the radar, nothing amazing. And he was still being talked about and considered for that Haas drive because of the Ferrari links. And we'll see what happens there. But good luck to him anyway.
Yeah. So, who do we like for Abu Dhabi? I mean, it's hard to sit here and not say, Max is going to go ahead and have 15 wins this season, because I would say Abu Dhabi is a good Red Bull track, but it's seemingly every track that's on the calendar is a good Red Bull track this year. But I really just want to see Lewis not go winless for the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I never thought I'd say that.
I know. Yeah. So I don't. I've never really been a rabid fan of the guy, but I have always been in awe of his driving prowess and his talent, and the records he set. So I really don't. I'd hate to see this streak reset to 1.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to be around for another 16 seasons.
I don't think so. Yeah.
But talking about that, interestingly, he's certainly not. There's obviously post Abu Dhabi last year. There's a lot of talk. Is he going to walk away? Is he going to, maybe have a year or 2 left, and George becomes the heir apparent to the lead Mercedes driver? But a lot of talk from Lewis and the Mercedes camp that they're looking at another contract extension beyond the end of next season for maybe another 2 or 3 years on top of it. So we could see Lewis go through to the end of 2025, maybe even 2026. You look at and that would put him, knocking onto the 40 age range. God forbid. And but you look at what Alonso's done. He's 41 now. He's just signed a 2-year contract, I think, with Aston Martin. So Fernando's going to be going until he's 43 and doing a decent job. I mean, you can't, to my money, two of the guys that have driven as well as anybody this year have been Seb and Fernando. The guys that are getting older and maybe have a slightly different outlook on it and a different level of intensity, and are really doing a great job. So, maybe Lewis has seen a bit of that and said, well, you know what, I just need to keep my powder dry and keep my head down and keep going, and he can, have a career similar to these guys.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. See, everybody is trying to retire Lewis except Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
everybody's talking about Lewis walking away except Lewis. So,
yeah,
I mean, I'm sure that there is a job for him as long as he would like one.
In Hollywood.
In Hollywood, sure, yeah.
In Hollywood. I can't wait for the movie with him and The Rock someday.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, yeah. So Frank, you have Hamilton, you said?
I'm gonna take Hamilton. Yeah.
I'm gonna go. Go ahead, Richard.
I would have picked Hamilton. I'll pick George because I think he's got a bit of. But I would love to see Hamilton win. I hate. As I say, I never thought I'd ever say it, but I really would. I'd love to see him continue that streak. So let's go with George to win. But let's hope for Lewis.
Likewise, but if I had to pick somebody else. I think Ferrari will get it together for once, and hopefully, they pull the runner-up points finish.
There you go. So, all right, that's our picks for Abu Dhabi. So let's like I alluded to it a little earlier, Takuma Sato was in the news recently. He's got his plans set for next year. He'll be with Dale Coyne, but on a part-time basis, he's just going to run the oval races. He's going to split his time between IndyCar and IMSA. He's got some IMSA stuff lined up. So that's going to open up, it's the old Ed Carpenter situation where we're splitting a car between an oval guy and a road course guy. So that seat is available. Again, we had talked about Latifi there, but there are a number of other guys out there, with looking for a ride, including, guys like Rasmus Liz coming out of the junior series and other guys there. You still got like Oliver Askew still bumming around trying to find an IndyCar ride. So, it's no telling who's going to end up there. Or it could be, somebody that's currently over in Europe in Formula 2. It's sometimes these guys just pop out of nowhere, like Christian Lundgaard, right? Nobody was talking about him. Next thing you know, he's full-time with Rahal, nearly won a race. So
Rinus VK. Yep.
Well, VK was in lights.
Yeah, but he was not a huge name, was he?
Nope.
Outside of Road to Indy.
Like
I was going to say, Road to Indy, he did well. Yeah, he finished second in the championship. But I want to say he was running at the same time as
Oliver Askew.
Yep. And was he there when Herta and Pato there, or he was a little after those guys?
Askew and VK were fighting for the 19 championship. The year before was Herta and Pato. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that's a couple of good classes coming out of the light series. All those guys, who ended up in IndyCar rides, and three of them still around. Askew still, like I say, still have him at Will Travel. And I think he's still somewhat linked to Andretti as a reserve driver. If needed. So, but other than that, the other big IndyCar news was the concert lineup for Iowa, which drew a number of really wow reactions from people. They're looking at having was it Carrie Underwood, Zach Brown Band, Ed Sheeran, and then who was
Kenny
the fourth?
Chesney.
Kenny Chesney. Yep. So you got some real big names there, right? And if you recall last year, they had big names for the entertainment as well, and they managed to sell out not one but two races and put on a very a very successful event, and they're looking at trying to repeat that success this year. As that remains on the calendar, they still have Hy-Vee All In as the event sponsor. So, good for them booking those acts, and good for them announcing that earlier. I remember like the last couple of years for the Indy 500, it'd been a month before the race till they let us know who's playing Carb Day. So, but yeah, so they've got that all lined out. So good for them, and
For sure.
for sure.
And it'll be much easier to go to that than old Taylor Swift. Just saying.
Poor Louise. I know you've been upset
You're a
about
Swiftie, aren't you?
that Taylor Swift. Hey, you know what? Judas Priest played in town here last night. The tickets were
Nice.
$45. Yeah. So,
Nice.
but
that's nice. Like Judas Priest finally in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, albeit it's like in a recognizable rather than the mainstay, but an induction is an induction, so about time.
Yeah, it was Judas Priest.
Well, we'll
Judas
talk
Priest
about that on our
rock and roll podcast. Yeah, but
There it is.
yeah.
I was waiting for that.
Yep. Yeah.
But no, it's a huge deal at the end of the day. You get major acts because we talked about it over
Massive.
the past couple years. To get people to come to the race, you got to bring the entertainment value. And if they're relatively fresh, unlike one sectioning body, unfortunately, it catches eyeballs, and that's very important. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the old acts and all, or in my eye, a bunch of no-name artists that I don't know because I don't listen to modern day country. But when you bring out like major artists on a show, it does help. And in this day and age, you got to do that because you can't just show up to watch the races and as with the attention span that we have. Unfortunately, you got to keep them entertained before, maybe during, and then after the race. And I think what I always have been able to do, and I'll mention it again, should earn an award by the FIA or whoever for excellent marketing promotion because they get it. They understood the assignment in modern day entertainment when it comes to motorsports.
Yeah, it needs to be marketed as an event, not as a race. You know what I mean? And I want to say Formula One was pretty darn successful down in Miami this year, marketing theirs as an event. They had some big names down there as well. As well as putting on a pretty decent Formula One race and having a pretty neat looking track with the fake yachts and stuff. So, and I think Vegas next year at night on the Strip, I think that is gonna be a sight to see.
Have you seen the price of some of the corporate boxes for Vegas next year?
Yeah.
$1 million a box for a corporate hospitality. $1 million. Good grief.
Well, I'm sure that includes a shrimp cocktail. So
yeah, there you go.
or a mimosa.
Yeah.
But hey, that going to Cup Weekend pack Chicagoland is much easier than the aforementioned shows that I mentioned.
Right, yeah.
Expensive to no end, but more attainable.
Yeah, we've talked about this a little bit recently. Some of the ticket pricing because Wilkesboro is, despite the fact it's in the middle of nowhere, it's commanding a pretty high ticket price just because of the number one, the nostalgia value of the place, and then secondly, the All-Star race, which is never really one of the best shows NASCAR puts on, but I don't know. And then of course we're talking about Chicago, and I want to say it was pretty pricey to go to the Clash at the Coliseum last year, was it not?
I'd imagine so. Obviously, I was doing photography and writing, so I couldn't tell you the ticket prices.
Yeah,
which I wonder how they're going to make the second year even bigger because, as I mentioned about those artists, is they got to go big. If they want to go recent, you got to go recent. It's just a matter of who they're going to get, how they're going to respond with the musical acts, and more importantly, entertainment before the qualifying races and all of that. They got to step that up just a little bit because they should honestly look at what I have done and adapt to it and learn how to make the Clash of 23 even bigger than ever. Because it's more than just like, oh, this time it's at night. You gotta have more than that in my book.
Yeah, I mean,
especially Saturday when you had morning practice and it would be another 5 to 6 hours till qualifying.
Right. Well, then it was single car qualifying on a track. What was it? Was it 1/8 of a mile? which
think it was a quarter mile.
It was a quarter mile, yeah. But even then, single car qualifying is boring to begin with, But here you are in this little tiny, slice. Not really much of a show, honestly. Unless you
it's
just
a sight of the whole, but you got to step it up in year 2. They got to.
Yeah.
All across the board to get those people out there. And I say the same thing with Chicago as well. You got to get the people to come and see the activities before and keep them entertained. You got to have musical acts. You got to have promotional stuff out there left and right to kind of keep them entertained. And then see, like, oh, I like this. It's like, man, you got to have a lot of stuff. And I think support races do help in a way. But you gotta put it accordingly. You gotta organize it quite well.
The best thing that these tracks do, and any sort of sporting event, not just racing, is free kids tickets. It's the way to go. You got to do it, especially as a say a father with 2 or 3 kids and want to take them out for a day to it's a whole day, and the adult ticket's $100, and then you got to remember the 50 for the kids. You're gonna $300, $400, $500 by the end of it. And what does it cost? It doesn't. The stupid thing is, it doesn't cost anybody, anything to put somebody in a seat. They're just not making as much money. But the longevity of it and the long-term interest of the sport is huge if you can get the kids there at an early age and get them addicted to it and get them enjoying it. So, I
really truck series races have done this for years. I think if you want to do it for the cup level, why not?
Yeah, and then another thing that they've done in like places like St. Pete and Long Beach is that they have free admission on the Friday
when the kids are at school.
Yeah, the kids are at school. Unless you're from the valley, then what school?
Yeah,
true, yeah. But I was going to say, but that way somebody can get out to the track, see the cars in the practice, see what all's going on, and say, "Oh, this might be fun. Let me buy a ticket for Sunday." It gets people there without an investment on their part ahead of time, just to kind of check it out, and that's another good way to just to bring new faces to the sport. So anyway, but I digress. So so let's talk a little bit about some of the driver movement news. So we've all kind of speculated that Ty Gibbs would be moving up to the Cup Series, and that is now confirmed. He'll be taking over the ride that was vacated by Kyle Busch, but with a number change, is it 54?
Yep,
54,
is the car number. So, and the 18 will just not be used next year, from what I understand. I don't know what the plans are, but so here's Ty coming off a season just marked with dichotomy. The guy has had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows all at once. So, I wish the kid well going forward. He's stepping into a good ride. He's got some really qualified teammates to lean on at that team there.
The question remains how long though?
How long?
Yeah, because there's this thing out there about Truex's career, and then his contract with Gibbs and FedEx end at the end of 2023.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of moving parts within the JGR camp over the next 2 or 3 years, and a lot of movement, I think, within the whole Toyota group as well, from what you see taking place, the groundworks that's going on with JGR and 2311, trying to bring new teams into it, because Toyota's not one of these teams, manufacturer like Ford and Chevy, that they do quality over quantity, and it'll be interesting to see where Toyota sits in 2 or 3 years' time when everything all plays out.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge mystery.
So some of the speculation is that Denny goes to 2311 as a driver. Do you see that happening at all, or do you think he's just going to try to just take more of just a full-time owner's role?
I think what I've heard from a podcast that he wants to at least reach 60 Cup wins before his career's over. If championship happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I think his eye is to get 60 Cup wins, which he's got a few to go to reach that mark. Obviously, right now, Harvick and Kyle Busch are at 60 apiece. But as far as leaving Gibbs. I think time will tell, and I think it ultimately boils down to sponsorship. And I think Denny knows this better than anyone, I'd imagine, after what he saw with the whole thing with Kyle Busch after Mars was going to leave. He doesn't want to have that same fate or have that same problem.
Oh, absolutely. He doesn't want to be, a man without a home. That's for sure.
Yeah, and as far as Gibbs is concerned regarding the announcement, I think what surprised me is because I talked about this a couple of times on and off there that Ty is a guy that doesn't like announcing anything until a couple weeks before the season actually starts. And the fact they announced it like right away early in the offseason is quite unique. I think more than anything is trying to attract sponsorships aside from maybe Monster Energy Drink and obviously the ones that are involved with Gibbs, which I think is helpful for them. And as far as the 18 is concerned, they're gonna at least for 1 year it's gonna be off of circulation as far as on the grid, and probably bring it back in the future. Which this is why some people think, oh, Truex in 2023 is gonna be his final year, and then the 19 goes away and the 18 is back in 2024. And again, this is not the first time we've seen this happen. I mean, look no further than 1993 with Richard Petty. The 43 went away for a year, was the 44. They brought it back a year after.
That's because I think NASCAR threatened to give it to somebody else if you didn't use it. It was a use it or lose it kind of deal there with Petty.
And I think the same with RCR, they paid money to keep that 3 for years despite not using it.
Yeah. But I want to say I'd heard that Denny would possibly take the 11 when FedEx had done the number to 2311, and then those cars would be 23 and 11 instead of 23 and 45.
Which would make sense, honestly.
Well, yeah, 23 and 11, yeah. But of course, the 45 has its own significance as being Michael Jordan's other basketball number.
Mm-hmm.
So
obviously can't use the 9 the one time he used it at a basketball game because his jersey got stolen.
Yes.
Oh wait, that's 12. Actually, that's 12.
Yeah.
9 was the Dream Team jersey. Yeah, the 9 was the Dream Team jersey. 12 was the jersey game. Never mind. Obviously, because Hendrick
his size of his shoe as well. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know about
his shoes got to be bigger than size 9s.
That's true. Yeah,
I was going to tell you, I wear size 11s, and my feet aren't as I'm not as large a man as Michael Jordan. So I bet he's got. So I'll tell you that much right now. So yeah, a lot of fun speculating with some of the stuff. But to your point, when we talk about Truex and Hamlin and even Harvick to a certain extent, NASCAR is about primed for another just kind of changing to the guard. We just had a lot of turnover recently when we're talking about, like Dale Jr. and Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson, all those guys exiting. We just had Kurt Busch announce his retirement. So you've got this next round of guys who are all kind of right at what seems to be, normal-ish NASCAR retirement age. So, and then you just got to look at the young guys coming up and see who's going to fill those shoes. So, we're about primed for another big changing of the guard there in NASCAR. So it'll be interesting to see how seats play out in the next couple of years. I would imagine the next couple of silly seasons are going to be a little extra silly.
Oh, yep. And speaking of silly, Cole Custer.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and go over that Cole Custer news, please.
Yeah, Cole Custer is going to be going back to the Xfinity Series, driving a second SHR car. He'll be teammates with Riley Herbst, as Ryan Preece will take over the 41 Cup car, which will mark Preece's second chance at the Cup level. Of course, he drove for JTG Motorsports' second car for Cup for 2 seasons, and then that race team shut down. He was left without a full-time race. He drove a couple races for David Gilliland Racing, which is now known as Tricon, in 2023. Won again in Nashville. He had some good runs for Rick Ware Racing in the 15 car. So this was one of those things where I know for a fact that Tony Stewart is going to be elated because Tony has been fighting Avachi to get Preece in that car because he knows that team needs to step it up. And let's be honest, Cole Custer's dead weight on the team. Well, we can say the same thing about Almirola, but at least Almirola can have some consistent top 10 finishes more often than not.
Well, I want to say Stewart Haas Racing as a team seems to have been really punching under their weight. recently.
They've struggled, haven't they?
Yeah, honestly, when you look at
2020 when Harvick won 8 races and missed the championship for 8 to
Right.
9 races.
Right, but if you look at the other guys in the Ford camp, look at the Penske team.
Oh yeah,
they are consistently far and above ahead of those guys, right? And even even the Roush Keselowski team looks better than Stewart Haas on some occasions.
yeah. Cindric got better. Harrison Burton got better. Obviously, you have like McDowell and Gill front row. They're getting better, and at times go toe to toe with the 41 and the 10.
Right, Chris Buescher won a race for Roush, and yeah, so I don't know what the malfunction is over there at Stewart Haas, but maybe getting Ryan Priest in there is a step in the right direction. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. But
Kyle Busch would have been better.
Kyle Busch, yeah, he was recently available. Yeah, but
talk about elevation, and as far as the Ford program having like a lead guy that could develop, that could have as far as developmental programs, because he could be their lead guy. But let me look what he's done with KBM. Imagine if he was with Ford. You probably have your main guy. Of course, right now you have David Gilliland, but that's in the feeder series. Who do you have like Ford performance that you can say, okay, this guy's the flag bearer of the driver development, not named David Gilliland? You can't really say that much. Other than, I don't know, maybe the Wood brothers as a step closer going to Penske. Who knows? But we'll never know. And I think for Stewart, it's like, well, I want this, I'm getting it, and I'm glad I got it. Because it's no secret that I think Tony and Gene has had some friction of what he wants and what he sees the team. He wants to be more than just, oh, we're going to get a couple paid drivers to keep us sustainable. No, he wants to win, period.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a power trip there, wasn't there? It's a little bit of a, we all knew how that was playing out with Tony and Gene, and he sort of got his way with that one, didn't they?
Yeah, we'll see, because you saw his top alcohol dragster debut, it seems like he was having much fun over there than he's had in years. And I think at that time, that guy should tell you a lot. Obviously, he's racing, that always helps, but I think to get his mind off of the tension and the angst, and they've honestly, and their eyes getting screwed over by the sport left and right with the whole thing with the Romo and Harvick. You could pick each side, but in his eyes, they feel that way. Not saying that I agree with him, of course, but
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have dysfunction in the team when you got two team owners with decidedly different visions, and that's going to reflect in the performance of the team. And we can see that happen firsthand. So,
yeah.
But again, like I said, punching under their weight, because you would. That organization has done some really, really wonderful things in the past, and they're just a shadow of what they once were. So we'll just hope, hoping they have a better 2023. So.
Yeah, we'll see how it is. And people say Cole Custer is like the new Justin Allgaier. It's like, dude, Allgaier never had a true cup shot. He drove for a backmarker team. Cole at least was in a caliber team. Stop it.
Nope, Cole won a race, so.
Yeah, and there's that. He drove for Ace SR. Justin Allgaier drove for Ace Scott. He never got a true shot at cup with a caliber team.
This is quite true. Yep, and there's the world is littered with guys that never got a true shot. That you wonder. What
I never got one.
Yeah, I know, and I just wonder how many cup races and championships you would have won had they put you in that car instead of Kyle Busch. So
yeah, I don't
want to brag or anything, but
I don't know. There was that time I was talking to Frank Williams, and he went and hired Alan Jones instead. So, the rest is history.
Yeah, that's how I felt about Team Penske, but they decided to go with someone. They decided to go on. They go with somebody else they felt like was more worthy, like Paget or something.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that takes us right about to the end of our hour. So we've got one more race to finish up 2022 for all the major series. There's different things to watch during the winter. There's a couple of Brazilian stock car seasons. There's always racing on MAV TV, whether it be some dirt racing or tractor pull. or British sidecar racing, which I have a tremendously fun time watching. Because those guys are crazy. So
mad as a box of frogs, they are. They really are.
I tell you, yeah. But so we'll be back on next week. Next week will be our 2022 recap show where we'll go over all the big stories of the year, and then we'll take our break. So until next week, I want to thank you, Richard and Louise. I want to thank the Hoobazoo Radio Network, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. And I want to thank you folks who listen to us. Until next week, good night.
Hoobazoo.com